the Photography Online podcast, in partnership with KingJoy tripods.
Coming up in this month's podcast, we find out if a camera lost in 1970 has managed to find proof of the fabled Loch Ness Monster, and we hear about the wedding photographer who fell into a lake with all his wedding photographs. We see if Marcus can beat first-time panelist Adam to actually win one of our pop quizzes, and we check out some new gear, including what's been dubbed the Flying Sun, and decide if there's any point in Fuji's new half-frame digital camera.
And now, please welcome your panelists. A man who has broken more cameras than he has hearts, which at the time of recording is 4 and 0. It's Marcus McAdam.
Cameras are more fragile though.
And a man whose photos are so hot, his camera's thermal warning light is permanently on. It's Adam Bully.
Hello.
And here to keep them both in check, she's Ruth by name and ruthless by nature. It's only Miss Taylor.
Hey everybody, welcome to our May podcast. I am Ruth, your host. That was a bit harsh of an introduction there. Just to say, I did not write most of these. Marcus did. Ruthless, really, Marcus? Where did that come from?
Well, it came from the heart. That's where it came from.
Okay. That's just hard. Do you know what? I didn't realise until recently. Ruthless, obviously, everybody knows is kind of pitiless. Ruth apparently means that. Pity, full of pity. So as we go on in this podcast and we do the quiz, with which you are on a losing streak, I promise you I will show you all the pity I have in my heart. But welcome to the podcast. Adam, as you heard there, with a very original reaction to his introduction.
Hello.
Adam, you will not have heard before on our podcast. He is in for the very first time. You will see more of him, though, on this month's Photography Online feature. He has been a part of the team for a long time, so we are very chuffed to have him with us. Adam, welcome to the podcast. You feeling nervous? You feeling joyful? What are you feeling, Adam?
Mostly nervous.
Mostly nervous. Is Marcus's face kind of putting you off a little bit?
Yeah, the camera angle that I'm looking at just now is not flattering.
When would be a good time to tell him about the initiation test, Ruth?
Oh, we do that at the end. Yeah. Anyway, no, Adam, we're joking. Welcome to the podcast. We are dead pleased to have you. Marcus, obviously, as you hear there, is back as well. Podcast number 4, I think, Marcus, for this year. You're fairly in on them. Have you been practicing for the quiz?
It's only you that's counting, Ruth. I really don't care.
Okay, good to know. I am counting. Well, there will be, at the end of the year, a bit of a table where we'll combine the top scorers of the quiz. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a little bit. That is coming up. We are going to move on, I think, with our first feature of the show, which is our news stories, photography stories that have been hitting our screens, our phones, maybe even our newspapers, you never know. Story number 1, this is a fun one. Marcus, what have you found?
Yeah, so the Loch Ness Monster, which is famous all over the world. I do have a fantastic story about that, but it's probably it's probably best reserved for another time. But anyway, there was a camera that has been found after 55 years. It was dragged up by an unmanned submarine, which snagged the mooring rope of this camera, which was lowered down into the waters in 1970. Do you know what the name of the submarine is, by the way, Adam? You could take a wild guess. Just think Loch Ness, submarine. Yeah. Go for it.
The Nessie diver?
No, it's Boaty McBoatface.
Oh, the famous Boaty.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say that as well.
Yeah, so
I thought he belonged in the Arctic.
No, Boaty McBoatface is a unmanned sub, and we all know the story about, they did a poll, didn't they, with the British public to name the Antarctic survey ship, and Boaty McBoatface came out top. So they've named the Antarctic Explorer the Sir David Attenborough, and they honoured the public view of the best name for a boat, and they've named this sub after the...
But when is a sub a boat? And when is a boat a sub? Surely it's Subby McSubface.
Sub means under the water, Adam. So at the moment it goes under the surface of the water, it's either sunk or it's a sub. So anyway, 1970, there were 6 cameras lowered into the waters of Loch Ness to try and discover whether the Loch Ness Monster actually existed or not. One of them's been recently trawled up by this unmanned sub by accident, wasn't planned. So it's quite a nice surprise. But when you look at you kind of forget I was born in 1970. I'm doing pretty well. But this camera, you kind of forget how technology moves on. I mean, it looks like you're looking at something from the dark ages. It really does. So it's a Kodak Instamatic camera with one of those kind of flash bulbs on the top. You know, the ones that you when you took a shot and it exploded and then you had to turn the bulb around so to use another side. You could only use them once. So I've no idea how that was supposed to work underwater, because who goes down to turn the little bulb around?
Well, Nessie, obviously.
I'm guessing there's some mention about it being clockwork, the camera being clockwork here. And if you look in the housing, there's all sorts of pulleys and cogs and wheels and stuff. So I'm guessing that they kind of invented some contraption to wind the camera on and turn the little bulb on the top, which is pretty, ingenious, really. Anyway, they've developed the film just on the off chance that something was on it. And to some surprise, there's no photos of Nessie on there. So that I just thought it was interesting because, it's not every day you pull up a 55-year-old camera from the depths of the Loch Ness. And amazingly, it's still bone dry, which, considering it was discovered at 130 metres and the pressure down there is pretty intense, I think that's proof that they did a good job with the water housing anyway. So
do they know when the photos were taken? Were they taken, quite soon after it went down? Is there any way of telling?
No, so obviously there's no metadata on the film. But no, apparently there was a bait line that was attached to the camera, and when the bait line was pulled, the camera took a photo with the flash, and then some mechanism inside the camera, inside the housing, wound the camera on and revolved the flash. And you only got 4 flashes on a bulb. So even though the film that was in the camera was probably a 24 or 36 exposure roll, there was only 4 photos that were ever going to be taken, because after 4 flashes, that's it. And it's dark down there, isn't it? 130 metres, there won't be any daylight at all. So you're relying 100% on the light from the flash.
So something pulled the bait line. We're assuming it wasn't Nessie, but remarkable, like you said, having a look at the photographs there. And again, guys, you can check out the show notes. There's links to all these. You can see the photographs. The fact that it actually has remained dry and intact down there. I suppose that speaks more to the housing than to actual camera itself. But I think it's gone to one of the local museums in the area. Is that right? Or the kind of Nessie Heritage Centre, whatever it's called. Something like that. Yeah,
there's kind of like what's loosely described as a museum at Drumnadrocket, which is on the shores of Loch Ness. I've been there a couple of times, and all I can say is it's not worth the entry fee. But it's gone there anyway, so it can be added to their very, very meagre collection of artefacts.
Do you know I bought a set of bagpipes at that place, Nessieland, I think.
What, played by Nessie?
Possibly. I was about 8 years old on a family holiday, and we went in to have a look at all the pictures and everything. Not that there's many pictures of Nessie in there.
Right. Okay. Listen, I'm sorry. I said I had an interesting story about Loch Ness Monster. I've got to tell it.
It's got to come out. Okay.
So, when I lived in Venice, this was 20 years ago, I used to fly backwards and forwards between Venice and London every week, because I used to work in London on a Sunday. And I was waiting at Venice airport, waiting to get on a flight back to London, and it was delayed. And I needed to go to the toilet because I'd been sitting there for 3 hours at this point. And I had my camera bag with me. And I asked a girl who was sitting in the vicinity if she would mind looking over my bag while I went to the toilet. So I went to the toilet, came back, and obviously I've now broken the ice with this girl, okay? So we're chatting away, and it turns out that she was a student from Hong Kong originally, and she was studying in London, and she was just coming to the end of her 2-year study period, and she was travelling around Europe trying to see as much as she possibly could before she went back to Hong Kong, because while in Europe, just make the most of it. So she'd just been to Venice and was returning to London. So I said, okay, so where have you been so far? And she said, all the usual places. I've been to Rome, I've been to Prague, I've been to Paris, a long list of places. And I said, and where have you still got to go to on your list? And she said, there's only 2 places left. One is Stonehenge and the other one is Nice. And I said, oh, right, okay. I said, so what's in Nice? Why are you going to Nice? And she said, well, the monster. I said, what monster? She went, the Loch Ness Monster. So after about 60 seconds of hysterical laughing, I managed to pick myself up off the floor. And I said, listen, I can save you a lot of money and a lot of wasted time. Don't go to Nice. go to Scotland, because that's probably where you're going to find it.
Excellent. Well, let's move on from that story to one actually very, very similar involving a camera in a body of water. Adam, this is a fascinating one. What is it?
Yep, so the headline for this one is Wedding Photographer Falls into Lake with Camera Containing Couple's Images.
Ooh, sounds bad straight away.
It does sound bad. It was in Tempe Town Lake in Tempe, Arizona. And the married couple, Gorinda Singh and Valeria Perez, were being photographed by Anil Kanwar. These are all easy names to read out. And I think the headline gives it away, but basically Kanwar was photographing them for their nice wedding shoot and then obviously took a step too many back and fell into the lake. And the camera and all the wedding images fell into the lake and sank to the bottom, apparently. From what I can make out from the story, the couple were actually very understanding. The photographer was keen to jump in and dive after it, but they were like, no, don't worry, it's fine. Which I think a lot of married couples wouldn't be as understanding. They'd be like, right, get in there. And he used Instagram to post about this, and the local fire brigade were doing a diving exercise in a couple days later, and said that they would go and look for it and managed to find it. And what's even more remarkable is that when they took it out, there were images still on the card, and they managed to find the Loch Ness Monster. What are the chances?
Unbelievable. I mean, the obvious question is, what on earth are the fire brigade doing diving? There's no fires going to be down there, are there?
I think in the US, fire brigade also encompasses kind of rescue-y stuff as well. It's not just fires that they do. Have either of you ever had tales, maybe not as dramatic as that, but where, you've damaged a card, lost a card, and people have been either understanding or otherwise?
Well, Marcus has an interesting one where he was stood too close to water on a windy day. And
that's right.
Oh, yeah. Just remind us of that one, Marcus.
But there was nobody else who was about to get irate at you.
But the card never came back. The card is still under the North Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, that's
being
true.
Pounded by the waves, along with most of my gear. But I have dropped other cameras in the water, which I've managed to retrieve, and the memory card's always been fine. So I think it's amazing how much abuse you can give a memory card before it fails.
I think obviously in this one, it was the fact that it was gone deep underwater, technically irretrievably, and with a wedding photographs on it. I mean, I can imagine the guy would have much rather jumping in after it, because otherwise he's not going to get paid, is he? He's not going to be able to edit these shots and get them to them. He's probably thinking, just forget it, I'll go in, just don't think about me. But horrific sounding. Adam, you've done wedding photography before, have you? Have you ever had anything, maybe not quite like that, but where you thought you'd lost precious images?
Well, I almost lost the married couple at one point. It was on Sky, and we were on this beach, and I was saying, the waves were kind of crashing in, so it was all very dramatic, and I thought, this would look amazing if you just stood on the cobbled beach, and I'll get some of these waves crashing in behind you, which was quite far away. So I was sort of pointed, I was like, do you mind standing over there, and I'll shoot this with a longer lens. And anyway, they went off, and then they just kept on walking, and I was trying to shout after them, but they couldn't really hear me because of the noise of the waves. And then they ended up going onto this rocky outcrop, which was where the waves were sort of crashing in, and I was sort of waving no, but by then I thought actually this would make a really good shot. So I went to take shots, and then a particularly big wave came in and splashed the bride with seawater, but they were fine. They lived to tell a tale, and they got a good shot out of it. So that's the closest I've got.
So much like most of your other good shots, it was a happy accident.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah. All right, well, this is another one. Well, these are all kind of similar, actually, memory card related at least, but this didn't go quite so well. What's the next story, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of detail on this one, but it will lead to another conversation. So the Williams F1 Formula One team have been fined €50,000 for forgetting to insert a memory card into the onboard camera. Now, this onboard camera was apparently supplied by the FIA, which is the governing body for Formula One. And this camera was apparently supposed to be testing flexibility of the bodywork on their car. But after the race, they asked for the photos, and then they realised that there was no memory card in the camera, so nothing had been recorded. So they've been fined €50,000, which is, I don't know, similar in dollars and a bit less in pounds, but not that much in pounds. But it obviously brings us on to the conversation of, have you ever gone out, Adam, and forgotten your memory card?
Oh, yes.
Have you been fined 50,000 as a result?
No, the fine was just internal embarrassment.
Yeah. No, I've done it a couple of times, but fortunately, every time I've done it, I've been pretty close to home. And what I do now is I actually keep an SD card in my wallet, and it's like my go-to. But the problem is that every time I put it in my wallet, within a week, I've got a reason to use it because I've gone out and I've forgotten my memory card. And I think, I've got my go-to standby memory card in my wallet. So it comes to the rescue, but then I know it doesn't go back in my wallet. So then the next time I need it, it's not there, of course.
I seem to record the very first Photography Online episode that we shot, which was up high in the store in very, very deep snow. And we forgot, or something happened with one of the memory cards for the audio that we were using.
I know, okay, I've got a very good recollection of this, Ruth, and it was nothing to do with the memory card. It was the fact that you had pulled the microphone lead out of the recorder, and so we didn't have any audio for most of your recordings.
But there was something about a memory card. I remember you looking frantically in your wallet for one. That was my memory. I do remember pulling it out halfway through, and then we were trying to think, how on earth do we actually cobble this back together? Did something not break? I can't remember. Anyway, memory card memories.
But the other one that will really get you, which has happened to me probably more, is the quick release plate on the bottom of the camera, because I'm forever taking those off and putting them on, because depending on what item of kind of equipment my camera's on, it could be on a gimbal, it could be on a tripod, it could be on an auto cue, and they all take different standards of quick release plate. So I'm always swapping them over. And sometimes you just go out and you'll walk 2 miles to a location and you've got your tripod and you've just lugged everything there, and you get there and all of a sudden you can't actually attach the camera to the tripod anymore. It's just so annoying. And it's always the little things, like a memory card is such an insignificant thing. And a quick release plate, it's just a little block of plastic or metal. But yet it's almost more kind of useful than a lens, or because you've always got another lens in your bag, right? So if you forget a lens, so what? You carry on. But this tiny little bit of metal completely ruins your day.
Haven't you got your very large camera actually just sits on top of your tripod because it's so large, it doesn't need the plate? Yes,
so that eliminates me having to forget that. But then I'll forget.
So just carry your 20.
I'll forget something else though. I'll forget the cable release, or the something. The loop. The loop is the thing I always forget. So for focusing,
the checklist. Always carry 2 spares of everything. So if you use one, Anyway, there's always stories like this. At least with you guys, it's not something you're not out on a commercial shoot and have forgotten something major, whereas these guys, either fined or losing the lady's wedding photographs. Anyway, fourth story we've got here, Adam, is a photograph. It's a camera-related story, I should say. What have we got here?
So the new Sony A12 shortage worsens as Amazon cancels the pre-orders. So basically lots of Sony shooters will be eagerly awaiting this new camera. But apparently Amazon had been taking pre-orders for it, and now they have decided to cancel that, which means that they don't even need to reoffer it at the same price that they initially put it up as. So there's kind of different ideas as to why this has happened. One of them being that the demand for the product has taken Sony by surprise, which in itself seems a little bit surprising.
It's surprising in what way? Nobody wants it, or everybody wants it?
Everybody wants it, apparently, right. According to Sony anyway. But then I guess it brings us on to the other thing that's a hot topic at the moment in the world of trade, and that is the tariffs that are coming out of America and being imposed. So it sounds as if that may well be having an impact on all of this as well.
I don't know anything about this camera, to be honest, because it's there's so many new digital cameras released all the time, and to me they're all exactly the same. They're just so I kind of lost interest in keeping up with which cameras are new to the market and everything. But so we don't know why Amazon have cancelled all the pre-orders, presumably just because they're gonna put the price up and they didn't want to honour the lower price.
I think it's more a story about that rather than the success of the camera,
right? Okay.
And how many people want to. It feels as if it's more edging towards the fact that they can't do it at the price that they initially put the pre-order up as.
Yeah. And when is this camera shipping?
It is expected to be shipping by the middle of May.
So obviously if people have ordered before the tariffs were announced and then they haven't, well, they've paid the old price, and then obviously the cameras aren't in the country yet because they're being shipped from Japan. So when they enter the country, then someone's paying however many % Japan are being charged. And you can see the business logic there.
Yeah, I think the way it works as well is that usually with new products, the country would kind of take a stock of them even before they're released. So like with Amazon, it wouldn't necessarily be as affected by these price increases since the tariffs have come in if they had a stock of them. But because it's brand new and it hasn't even left the factory yet, by the sounds of it, that's where the problem starts to happen, because they're all going to be affected by these changes, which kind of does make you think about how the impacts of all other products kind of in the immediate time frame, how that's going to affect just around the world, not just America or those kind of countries, but the knock-on effect onto us as well, I suppose.
Which leads us beautifully on to the next story, Ruth.
Yeah, story number 5. Go for it, Marcus.
Right, so Ilford, who are obviously based here in the UK, they've increased all their prices, but only in the US, of film, paper and chemicals. So everything's gone up by just over 10%. So some things have gone up by 11%, some things have gone up by 12%. But yeah, I guess it's a complicated issue, isn't it? Because I think the UK are being charged 10% at the time of recording anyway. I mean, it changes daily, but at the time of recording, we're being charged 10%. So it means that when Ilford are sending their stuff over, the importer, I guess, is paying the extra 10%, but then they've raised the prices in the US so that essentially it's the consumer that's paying the tariff. That's the way I've figured all this out in my head. So Ilford are still going to be making the same amount of money because the price increase is basically just going to the US government, but that money is ultimately coming from the consumer. So everyone's basically at a stalemate there, apart from the consumer who's paying the US government another 10%.
Or choosing not to, which I suppose is the danger here. I mean, where we did the Ilford tour, which if people have watched photography online for a little while, a couple of years back, Marcus and I did a tour of the Ilford factory. We were in the warehouse, the distribution warehouse, and we saw the massive area of stuff that was ready to go to the US to be shipped over there.
Well, it was that was B&H only. So it was one retailer in New York, so it's not like it was a network of franchises or anything.
No.
It was one retailer,
one store,
and it was. I mean, it's difficult to describe it, but it was the size of a house.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be an exaggeration, would it? So there was this pile of film, Adam, and paper and chemicals and everything, and it was all boxed up, all on pallets, and there were loads of them. And as we were doing this tour, the warehouse manager said, yeah, this is all going out tomorrow. It's going to B&H. That's their kind of monthly order.
Yeah. I suppose the danger here is because film and things like that it's so fragile right now in terms of the resurgence. If the prices are going to go up like that, people who maybe have been thinking about getting back into it might put them off, which is a bit of a danger point, I would say.
But I have a question, and this is a genuine question because I don't know the answer to this. But on our website, our own website, we have a shop and we sell a number of things, and one of those things is tripods, and the tripods that we use, most of the team use here are by KingJoy, and we sell the ones that we use, and they're made in China, and they go from China to the UK here, and then when we sell them, we send them out from here. Now, if someone in the US were to buy a tripod from me, okay, then it's originated from China, and China have currently got 145% tariff. So if they bought it from China directly, it would end up costing them twice as much as if they buy it from me, because they're only getting 10%.
Well, there's a selling point.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if that's a loophole that I found by not even trying, then surely there must be loopholes all over the place.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of stories coming out around the tariffs and various things that are being prices going up, things are being exempted. As you said, it's changing all the time. You can find links to the stories that we've been talking about on the show notes, so do check that out. We are going to move on to my personal favourite part of the show.
The Photography Online Podcast Quiz.
Welcome back to the Pop Quiz. That's the Photography Online Podcast Quiz, where I ask our 2 panellists 5 photography-related questions, and you guys can, of course, play along as well, as the answers will not be revealed right up until the end. This is Adam's first pop quiz. I don't think he's got too much to fear, to be honest, because as I was saying at the beginning, Marcus is our current reigning loser, having lost his first 3 quizzes, but he could be dangerous when he's smarting, so we're not entirely sure.
But who's counting? Who's counting, Ruth?
I am.
Clearly.
There will be 5 rounds. You'd be worried if I wasn't. Each one is worth a point, Adam, for the correct or the closest answer. In the event of a tie, you will both receive the point because I am generous and not ruthless. The winner gets nothing at all apart from the joy of winning, which doesn't seem to incentivise Marcus very much, so maybe we actually do need a prize. We'll see how it goes. However, let's play.
Round 1. Multiple choice.
All right, Adam looking slightly nervous already before he's even heard the question. Marcus just doesn't care. All right, in this round, I'm going to ask a question which is quite difficult. So, to help you out, there are 4 possible answers. All I need you to do, tell me which one you think is correct. This is the question. What does JPEG stand for? A. Joint Processing Enhancement Grid. D. Joint Photographic Experts Group. C. Java-based Picture Encoding Grid. Or D. Journal of Photographic and Electronic Graphics. Quite some mouthfuls.
Yeah.
Can't read, Adam. This is interesting. Usually when Harry's on, the hair tells me his state of emotion. He runs his hands through it and... Marcus's eyeballs just move slightly.
That's one of those questions where we've all read the answer at some point, and it's
yes,
just
exactly.
It's one of those pieces of information that your brain just goes, that's just not important, chuck that out. There's no point in that, wasting space in here. So yeah, we've all read it, and I can't remember. So
Marcus already telling us why he's not going to get this one right. Adam, do you have an answer that you've got written down or in your head?
I do.
Okay.
I'm just relieved that there's not that much risk of me looking like a complete idiot on this one because it's multiple choice.
Well, you do such a good job of that anyway, Adam, so don't worry about it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, have you both got an answer? Yes?
Yes.
All right, okay, let's move on.
Round 2. Name the year.
Okay, in this round, the answer to the question is, unsurprisingly, a year. The round goes to whoever gets the closest answer, but if either of you gives me the exact answer, you will get a bonus point. Okay, here's the question. What year was the first 35mm camera made?
Ooh,
they both got
these are the ones that I get nervous about.
These are kind of wildish guesses, so don't worry too much. You do get a point for the closest, and then a bonus point for bang on, which I don't know if anyone's ever got it bang on before. No, I think one of the first ones, we were talking about Ansel Adams' birthday, someone got that one bang on.
Yeah, I reckon Harry cheated on that. It's an easy thing to Google.
So, yeah. You're the one who is an Ansel Adams fan over there. So for year the first 35mm camera was made. You both got something?
Yep.
I'll take that snort as assent. All right, let's move on.
Round 3. Artificial intelligence.
Alrighty, well, in this round, I asked ChatGPT to describe a photographic object, person, or practice without mentioning the name of the subject. All I need you guys to do is tell me what I asked it to talk about. Now, I got to say, I was saying this earlier, I asked it to do this one as a riddle. Okay, so it's not quite so long as usual. So what is it talking about? Here we go.
I borrow light but make none shine, bending beams to realign. Soft or sharp, I shift the way, guiding beams that go astray. Held in hand or standing tall, I shape the glow to fit them all.
Yeah, okay, I know what that is.
Oh, come on.
Come on,
Yeah,
Adam.
he's right,
It's
he's
obvious.
right.
It's a tripod.
Shut up, Marcus. All right, you got something, both guys? Yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all right, next one.
Round 4. Take a wild guess.
All right, Adam. Well, as the name suggests, this round requires an answer which could be almost anything, so you're fairly unlikely to get it exact. You'll need to take a wild guess, and as with round 2, the point goes to whoever gets closest to the answer. If you get the exact answer, which is kind of unlikely, there are 2 bonus points. I'll be very impressed if you get the exact answer, actually. So here is the question. Take a wild guess. The largest camera collection in the world was owned by Dinesh Parekh, a photojournalist from Mumbai. How many cameras did he own?
Ooh. Did he own? So, I mean, is he...
He just died. He just died.
Right.
It would be current if he hadn't just passed away.
Okay.
And it's the largest collection in the world.
In the
did you say?
world, yeah.
It's one of those ones where you just got to decide
Take a wild guess.
decide how many figures you're going to go for, and then just randomly write figures down. Okay, right, done it.
Okay.
Yeah, ads, you happy?
I'm there.
You've got a question, you've got an answer. All right.
Round 5. Where in the world?
Okay, so this final round, it's as much a geography question as it is a photography one. The location will typically be a well-known hotspot for photography. So here is the description. Where in the world? This structure is widely considered as a symbol of love. It's known for its perfect symmetry and the different ways in which it reflects light through the day. Construction involved over 22,000 people, 1,000 elephants, and it took 22 years to complete.
I know it.
There we go. He did this last time and he was wrong.
Well, I think I know it.
So you think you know it. Yeah. Adam's looking very studious. He's writing them down. Mark is actually writing them down. I was just thinking after last month's podcast where Marcus and Harry were almost accusing each other of potentially changing answers based on the first person's answer. Maybe we need to actually have sealed envelopes that are held up to me. But this is going on good faith and trust. So you guys both got something there?
Yep. I've actually been there. I've spent quite a lot of time there, actually. Been there on several
Marcus,
occasions.
Are you feeling quite confident for this quiz then? I'm sure you don't want to say it now, but I can tell.
I've been to where my answer, I've been there, basically. Whether it's the right answer or not, we'll wait to be seen.
All right, well, let's go through the questions and give you some answers. Obviously, the first question, what does JPEG stand for? What did you have, Adam?
I put D.
Ignore Marcus, Adam. Ignore Marcus. Marcus, what did you have?
I've gone for B.
You've gone for B. Adam has gone for D. Sad to announce, Marcus is actually correct.
Oh, no.
Joint Photographic Experts Group, named after the committee that created the standard in 1992. Very uninventive lots by the sounds of them, but they did good work.
And it's amazing, Ruth, that it's still alive today because what year was it?
1992.
Yeah, so 1992. So where are we? So that's 33 years. Is that right? Yeah, 33 years ago.
Yeah.
And in all that time, nobody has come up with a better compression ratio for photos. I mean, they probably have, but they just haven't taken off. So we still use JPEG.
Yeah, JPEG, Joint Photographic Experts Group. Round 2, where I asked you to give me the answer to what year was the first 35mm camera made? Let's go Marcus first for this one.
I've gone 1922.
Okay. Adam?
I put 1910.
Adam is closest. Well done, Adam.
Yes.
You get the point. It was 1905.
Wow.
The first record of a 35mm camera made by Jens Paul Andersen in Denmark. It was made of mahogany, 4 fixed aperture settings, f5, f8, f10, f15, and only a hundredth of a second shutter setting. It could be loaded, get this, with up to 20 meters of 35mm film, which gave around 300 exposures on the 24 by 60mm format. Many credit Leica as making the first 35mm, but theirs didn't come along until 1913. So congratulations, Adam.
No, I knew it wasn't Leica who made the first one, but I was going to go kind of like, mid-19 sort of, teens. But then I just thought, well, there's the First World War and all of that, and it probably wouldn't been then. So I went after rather than before. Big mistake.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, exactly. Congrats, Adam. Round 3, artificial intelligence, where I asked ChatGPT to describe a photographic something. What was your answer, Adam?
Right. I don't think this is the right answer, but I put flash because it was talking about how it could sculpt light in the... Look at Marcus's face there. Okay, right. There's my answer.
Okay.
Marcus?
It's obviously a lens, Ruth.
I love this. I love this even more because we've just finished filming a segment. It's a reflector.
Oh, for goodness sake.
This is fantastic. We've literally 2 days ago, Marcus and I have just finished filming all about reflectors. I thought you were so sure because that was the reason why.
No, because
and the more certain you are that you're right, the better the reaction. I love this.
It says it like bends light and all of that sort of stuff. But
yes.
Yeah, I know. But a reflector doesn't really bend light. It reflects it, which is why it's called a reflector.
Oh, Marcus. It's still light that's ending up on the end product. You know what? The more confident you are and the more scaling you are, the better I like it when you lose.
Well, hang on a minute. It's still 1-1. So
it's still 1-1. It doesn't matter. I'm just enjoying my moment.
Everything's
all
to
right,
play for.
This is round 4. The largest camera collection in the world, which was owned by a photojournalist from Mumbai. How many cameras did he own? Okay, who looks... Adam, what do you reckon? This is a wild guess, bear in mind, so the closest to gets the point.
5,000?
Marcus?
Well, you see, the thing is, I've now got the advantage because I've written something down here, but I can go 4,999, and I reckon I'll win because I think I.
Give us.
No, I've written.
I said we're playing on honesty and trustworthiness. Did I not?
I've written 6,497.
Geez, that was specific. What did you say, Adam?
5,000.
5,000 flat. So that's okay. So Adam once again wins.
Come on.
It was 4,425. So not bad. I'm quite impressed. Both of you are within ballpark, which is not bad. What were you basing that on, Marcus? Your camera collection behind you and what you would have if you could have?
No, I just thought it's going to be 4 figures because it's going to be more than 999, you would have thought, and it's going to be less than 10,000. So I thought it's going to be 4 figures. So I just wrote down 4 random figures. That's my logic there. So.
Well, Adam, did you have any logic behind your thought process?
No.
Even better. Okay, fabulous. All right, let's leave that there. Our final question. It is currently 2-1. So Marcus can draw, but he cannot win. Our final question was where in the world? And I said it's widely considered as a symbol of love, known for its perfect symmetry, different ways it reflects light throughout the day. It's involved 22,000 people, 1,000 elephants, and took 22 years to complete. Marcus is pretty confident on this one. What do you reckon, Marcus?
I think it's the Taj Mahal.
Adam?
I put the Taj Mahal.
No, you didn't.
He's showing us it's working. He did. Look, see, I love this, Adam. You're an honest man. All right, you're both right, and that means, of course, that Adam has won his very first podcast quiz. Marcus, not that anyone's counting.
No one's
has lost his first 4. So we like it. So there we go. That is our podcast quiz. Do let us know how you got on. If your score was higher than Marcus, let us know what you got. And if you'd like to submit any questions as well for any of the rounds, we are well open to any sort of inspiration, because the more we do of these, the more difficult it gets to find stuff. We have a dedicated email address, podcast@mc2photography.com. Don't put it in the comments just because Marcus, Adam, Harry, Nick or James might see that and research it, but pop us an email if you've got any suggestions. I'll be back with a new set next month.
The Photography Online Podcast, in partnership with KingJoy Tripods.
Well, we are excited to have KingJoy helping us make this year's podcast possible. As we've talked about before, we all use KingJoy's products. We are really happy to have them supporting the podcast this year. Now, last month, Marcus mentioned the brand new C83S travel tripod from KingJoy, which we are actually giving away on the podcast this month. Marcus has got it in his hand. I know you can't see it. He's doing one of these poses where he sweeps his hand down. It's a lovely looking thing. In fact, we were just doing a trip a couple of weeks ago, myself and Harry, and somebody borrowed one of these from us, and I was just thinking, this is it's like the perfect travel tripod, Marcus.
It is, which is why I'm going to be using it myself. So the reason why it's a perfect travel tripod, Ruth, is because including the ball head, it weighs only 1.9 kilograms, which is 4.2 pounds if you're listening from the other side of the pond. The maximum working height is 1.7 meters, so I'm 6'2" or 188 centimeters, and that pretty much gets the camera up to my eye level. So it's, even though it's a travel tripod, it still has got a good extendable height. That's with the center column raised as well, which is removable. So the downside of a center column, obviously, is if you have a center column on your tripod, then you limit the lowest position that you can get the camera to. So you can take the center column off this and pretty much get the camera on the floor. Each leg has 3 locking angles. Each one is spring loaded. The collapse length, which is important because obviously it's a travel tripod, so you're probably going to want to put it in a suitcase or something at some point, is only 58 centimeters. That's 23 inches if you're listening in North America. But it's incredibly small because the center column kind of is been shaped to fit the very, very small gap between the legs. And that's what allows the legs to close down. So kind of, compactful. So I don't know if you've noticed this, Adam, but if you ever try and sell a tripod on its weight, always extend it to its fullest height and then get someone to pick it up, and they always go, oh wow, that's really light, and then you close it down again and and people pick it up and they go, oh, that feels quite heavy. And it's one of it hasn't changed the weight, obviously, but it's just that when you pick something up that's 6 foot tall, you expect it to be a lot heavier, and when you pick something up that's quite compact, you expect it to be lighter. So if you ever want to compare a tripod weight, just extend it all the way and then tell people to feel how light it is, and they'll be very impressed. So if you're going to buy this tripod, in the UK, it costs £425. That's about $560 US. And that is without tariffs, I might add. So, but we are giving one away, aren't we, Ruth?
We are, and if you fancy adding that to your kit, all you need to do is visit the show notes on whatever platform you're listening on. Click the link, it'll take you to a form. You can submit your details, and we will draw the winner on our June podcast. And if you want to find out anything else that is available in the KingJoy professional lineup, do check out the Photography Online shop if you're in the UK. That's on mc2photography.com. Check out the shop on there, or you can, of course, visit kingjoy.com for international sales or to find your nearest dealer. All right, well, let's move on.
Listeners from an unlikely location.
Yes, we always like to take a chance to say hello to listeners from unexpected parts of the world who are tuning into the podcast. Now, this month, for some reason, we've had a sudden surge in listeners from Hong Kong. Not sure why. Hong Kong does always feature somewhere on the list, but this month it's way higher than usual. But if you're one of them, ni hao, I think is how you say. Do you know better than that, Marcus?
No, ni hao is Mandarin. You want to be Cantonese for Hong Kong.
Oh, I have false information. Do you know what the Cantonese is for hello?
I think it's something like nei ho or something.
Okay, right. Nei ho then, if you're listening from Hong Kong, and you're very welcome. We do always try to find, I should say, the most obscure location of the month, and we reckon that accolade this month goes to one listener that we had from Latvia, a country of 1.8 million people, where we clearly have some work to do on the promotion of our show, but we have to start somewhere. So, sveiki, I think is how you say it, to you if you are our single listener in Latvia. But wherever you're listening from, always so glad to have you tuning into the podcast. Do feel free to get in touch and let us know about yourself. We're always interested in who's listening. You can email us, as I said before, podcast@mc2photography.com, or leave a comment, of course, on whatever platform you're listening on. And speaking of comments, thank you for your comments on last month's podcast. Peter commenting from Canberra in Australia. He said, I find the monthly episodes informative and good fun. Much of it I know, as I've been a photographer for many years, but there's always something new for me to learn, especially with digital photography. What I do enjoy the most are the podcasts and PO Live. The interactions between everyone are truly delightful. That's us, guys.
Well, that was until
delightful.
Adam was on the show.
And I do appreciate Marcus's forthright opinions.
Hey.
Many thanks for such a wonderful resource. Paul got in touch, Paul Milovich from by email. He said, sending greetings from Price in Utah in the US. I love your podcast and your YouTube channel. Also, I wear my Photography Online t-shirt proudly when I'm out with my camera. Marcus tends to wear his Photography Online t-shirt indoors when he runs out of clothing to wear generally. He's zipped up in a cardigan this morning, so he's probably got one on underneath.
I don't actually have one on today. It's just a plain t-shirt. It's very unusual that I'm not rocking the Photography Online logo.
It is true. His wardrobe's kind of like Superman's wardrobe, where it's kind of got some blue t-shirts, some red t-shirts, and some white t-shirts. Then everything else is Photography Online branded. Anything that we haven't managed to sell yet. Anyway, thank you guys for getting in touch. Regarding the show, Photography Online, our main YouTube show last week, quite a few comments on various things, including Marcus's kind of slightly rant. He did a bit of a segue rant, talking about ISO being an acronym, or not being an acronym. Wilson Photography 1 disagreeing with you, Marcus. He said ISO is an acronym, International Standards Organization. I'm not sure we need to actually reply to that, as we know that's not the case, and Marcus put a link on a few people who mentioned the same thing, pointing them to, is it iso.org.uk? And there's a section on there actually about why it's called ISO and it's not ISO, but we did have quite a few comments on that.
It's actually ESO because but it's an abbreviation of the word ethos, which is Greek for equal. So if you're going to abbreviate something, then you should at least keep the same pronunciation of the thing. But nobody says, I set my camera to 400 ESO. I mean,
you sound like a complete prat.
What do you say, Adam, when you're referring to ISO? Do you say ISO or do you say ISO? Because I mean, most people just say
ISO.
Okay.
If you say it slowly enough, it sounds like it can be both, and then nobody can pick you up. ISO.
Yeah. But
anyway,
no, trying to do is I'm trying to educate people with the correct terminology. And what do I get for it, Ruth? I get a load of flack.
That's because you show no grace when you're typing back on your comments section. I need to teach you. Anyway, Shumiying Hon also said, judging your exposure is simple. This is in relation to our eyeballing exposure feature with a live view screen.
Yeah, that's cheating
Marcus,
though.
Okay, yes, technically. Ian Lewis Photography said the exposure value feature might be one of the best yet. Really informative, incredibly useful. I'll be trying to adopt this. The resolution feature was also great. I don't feel so bad now about rocking a 5D Mark III. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Bruce Thompson got in touch and said, I love your programmes, but I've found the exposure without meter articles, this is the eyeballing exposure, in the last two to be long-winded, boring, and will never be used or remembered by 99% of photographers. The rest I did enjoy. So two opposing views, which we often get on these kind of features. We get someone saying they loved it, other people saying it was rubbish. So you can see what we have to work with. We can't please everyone.
No, you can't please all the people all the time, Ruth. The best you can hope for is to please some of the people some of the time. And thankfully...
Marcus has been reading self-help books, and one of the quotes from there. Old Girl Photography said, another fantastic show. Thank you from the bloopers at the end. I also now appreciate just how much effort goes into getting it right. And thank you for that. Yeah, we stuck some bloopers back into the end of the last show. We'd have had quite a lot of comments over the last few months, people missing the bloopers, and we didn't kind of stop them on purpose. I think we just got we got better. We didn't have quite as many to play with, but there's always a few.
I'll tell you what it is, Ruth. It's largely a production thing, because when you're recording, if you mess up, then why would we keep that bit and transfer it over to the edit? Because we know it's not the right one. So it just means when we used to do the bloopers, I used to transfer everything over, whether it was, had a mistake in it or not. Whereas now, I just transfer the stuff that we actually need over to the computer. And so it actually takes quite a long time to then go through all the other stuff and find everything that went wrong and then pull that over. It's almost like you're making another little show at the end of the show. Yeah,
I mean, I think what we tend to do now, if there's something particularly funny that we realise at the time, we keep it in our heads, basically, and just think could use that at the other end of it. But yeah, thank you guys for getting in touch. We always appreciate your feedback. Do keep it coming. Comment or email podcast@mc2photography.com. All right, well, we're going to move into our gear section.
It may be new. It may even be exciting. But does the world really need it?
Well, this is Does the World Really Need This?, where we talk about gear items that have been released. Last month we had some kind of more serious ones, quite a lot of lenses, quite a lot of cameras. Got a bit of a mixture on this lot. First one, what have you got, Marcus?
Okay, so Think Tank, which own Mindshift as well, and they're bags that we all like and we all use. They have just released a new Pro series of bags called the Walker Pro. And there's 3 different sizes. There's a 16 litre, a 24 litre and a 30 litre. And they're all identical apart from the size, obviously. But even the smallest one, the 16 litre one, can hold a couple of bodies and a trinity of lenses. So I would say that most photographers probably don't have more than that. So even the smallest bag will suffice the needs of most photographers. But they also have a laptop pouch and other bits on the outside where you can attach drinks and tripods and goodness knows what you need to do. But I think the real selling point of these is that they're made for the professional photographer. So I would say that most photography bags, regardless of who they're made by, probably see the light of day maybe once every couple of weeks. So they get put in a cupboard somewhere, and then at the weekend when the photographer or the owner gets time to go out and take photos, they go out for a couple of hours and then they put it back in the cupboard again, and it doesn't come out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Whereas these are designed for daily use, and all the zips and the materials and the stitching and everything, they've all been kind of reinforced so that they last a long time. So a good bag is worth its weight in gold. And I use Mindshift bags because I think that they're the best out there. I haven't seen this in person, and it's one of those things that you can't really pass a judgment until you physically pick it up and feel the zips and use it for a while. But on paper, it looks good.
I mean, Marcus, Harry and I were, as I said, doing a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and Harry had just invested in a brand new Think Tank bag. Is it the Dark Light, the one we were mentioning recently on the show? It was very odd seeing Harry with a bag that was not green or some sort of muddy form of khaki. So he had this black bag on. I kept thinking he'd stolen one of the customers' bags. But yeah, no, like you said, we've done think tank bags a few times on here, and we all own them. They're just robust. They just stand up to all the kind of daily beating. Adam, do you've got, I'm sure, a wide selection of bags on your end. I'm just guessing. All
of which are incredibly heavy. I always know which bag is Adam's because you just pick them up, and Adam's is always the one that's 4 times heavier than everybody else's.
Do you carry all your glass with you?
I know. I don't even know how that happens either. It was like that in when we were out in the States just there as well. It's ridiculous. But I've not changed my bag in about 6 years or something like that. I don't know about you guys, like how often you change your bag.
Well, I've got lots of bags because I've got lots of different setups. You know, I've got, you know, a bag that I go out with one camera, and I've got a bag that I go out with another camera, and generally that works, but it does fall flat on its face sometimes when you only have one of something and you put it in one bag and then you pick up the other bag to go out. It's happened quite a few times. But yeah, so I've got quite a lot of bags, all of which are Mindshift, apart from one, which is the biggest bag on the market. It's actually made by Lowepro. And if Mindshift made one big enough, then I would swap it over, but it's not.
We were talking about this recently. The bigger the bag, the more you feel you just fill all the spaces with things, and that's why they get so heavy.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
That bag is a beast. You could fit a child, you could fit a small adult in there.
But the thing is, my big camera, it will only fit in that bag. So, and even then, that once you put the camera in the bag, there's no room for anything else at all. So that's the only reason why I use that.
No, at least that camera doesn't need many additions.
But Ruth, I've got a fantastic idea for all bag companies. Okay.
Oh, not again.
No, and that is to fill all, like, you know, the handle and the straps and everything, fill them all with helium.
Because that's safe.
Yeah, no, helium's I think is a pretty safe gas. But what you know, it might, if you could pump, like compress helium into all of those little spaces. Number one, you wouldn't then have to have the padding in the bag, okay? But more importantly, the helium would offset a lot of the weight. And
you wouldn't be able to travel with it. Wouldn't be able to go on a plane. This is like your credit card idea from last time, the fold-up tripod, make it into a credit card. You got, in general, some good ideas, but I know some companies have actually gone forward and manufactured with.
Yeah.
You're either slipping or no. The last two, that's not going to happen. Let's take this as an April Fool's joke. Yes, was it an April Fool's joke? Are you serious?
No, it wasn't serious, but you can tell that I've got that kind of that brain that would be very, very useful in a engineering and a manufacturing company.
Aye, okay, not one to add to your portfolio, perhaps. Anyway, let's move on to another item, which is actually super interesting, and I really like the name of it, Adam. First of all, tell us, what's the name and what is it?
So this product is called the Flying Sun 1000, no less. And it's a new drone fitted with a 3,333 watt light. That's a nice round number there, isn't it? And it's going on sale. So the idea is that it can light up pretty much any scene. And it has an output of 300,000 lumens, which is significant.
Can you translate that for us? How bright is what kind of area is that going to light up? 300. What did you say? 300,000. Really bright is the technical term.
So apparently, it can light up an area the size of Trafalgar Square in London, around 130,000 square feet, which is significant. So obviously, the application of something like this would be fairly niche.
You think?
And it does come with a catch, and the main catch being the price tag of $60,000.
Whoa.
But you don't need to worry, because they do a lower spec model, which just costs a mere $49,000.
That's the one I'm going to get.
That just lights up the statue, does it?
What do I sacrifice for the 11,000 that I've saved?
I think it's possibly half as powerful, because it's called the 500, not the 1,000. I'm basing that on that.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in a position where you turn up with a Flying Sun 500 and someone else rocks up with a Flying Sun 1000. I mean, how inferior are you going to feel?
So embarrassing.
Wouldn't it be? It'd just be awful.
So who's going to use it? I mean, it could be fun if you were to hire one, I suppose, and try and light up the Old Manor store or the Kerrang or something. But I mean, I think it's going to be primarily used, well, its intended use is for disaster relief efforts, construction or security. So I could imagine maybe police forces using this instead of helicopters. You know, when they're trying to track someone down, they'd have a helicopter with a massive light, maybe whack the drone out instead.
Yeah.
But am I right in thinking, Adam, that it actually it's got a tether. It's got a lead leading to a battery, so it's not going to travel very far.
No, exactly, which makes me think that it would be possibly used by filmmakers, Hollywood-style productions. In Edinburgh, actually, a few years ago, they were filming the Avengers movie, and they had the Royal Mile all cordoned off, and they had these huge lights lighting up the street. They were absolutely like on cranes, basically. So that must have cost a fortune. So I was kind of thinking, well, maybe that could replace something like that. They could just stick the drone up there, get it on a tether, and it'd probably cost a lot less than the cranes.
And so if this thing's got to haul all of that lighting and it's tethered, that's going to be some significant weight. So does it say how long it can stay airborne for?
Well, it does, but it's a little bit vague. It says it can fly without the lights.
Ah, here we go.
From between 20 to 50 minutes, which is quite a variance.
So with the light, it's about 20 seconds. Yeah. So you can imagine the movie company, right? Okay, you've got to get this right first take, otherwise we've lost the light. So yeah.
And does it actually have a camera on it as well, Adam, or is it just light?
I think it's just light.
It's just light. The thing is, for photography, this is completely. I know it's not designed for photography, so it's a bit mean to say that it's a waste of space. But for photography, it is a waste of space because the only reason to photograph something at night when you would need to light it is to do astro or aurora photography. Otherwise, why not just use the sun? And when you're, as Adam will no doubt back me up here, when you're doing astro or aurora photography, the amount of light that you need to light something, even if it's a long way away, is absolutely minute. I mean, a hand torch will do the job on something that's half a mile away. So to have 30,000 lumens? I mean,
300,000.
Underestimated it. I mean, it would be completely. It makes everything look like it's shot in the middle of the day, and that you'd end up with a completely black sky. What would be the point of that?
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. I suppose it depends. If you're doing video, then that's where you're kind of limited by shutter speeds and a little bit more, and you're having to push the ISO up. So, I mean, I could see it coming in useful for something like that. But then, like you were saying with the sun, I could imagine doing long exposures with a full moon, and getting a similar kind of effect as to what you might get with this.
Yep.
So, yeah. It's difficult to see me using it.
I can see people getting creative though with it. If someone, I mean, not buying it probably, but if somebody sent it to 20 different photographers who had a bit of a creative eye, or videographers possibly, seeing what they come up with would be quite interesting. You mentioned the Old Man of Storr, a vast landscape like that. If you could put coloured lights on it or something, but I guess as a purely practical tool, it's a flying light, which is handy for people. But unless it's got a camera on it as well, if you're doing search and rescue, you kind of want to see what you're looking at the same time. I don't know exactly how it works. But anyway, there is links to that if you're interested. If you've got any ideas, do feel free to let us know. The next item we have, a little bit back down to earth, Marcus. This is quite an exciting one, actually. It leads on from something we featured not too long ago on Photography Online. What have we got here?
Yeah, so this is a new camera and it's only rumoured. So we don't have any, we can't discuss too many details.
We're mongering here.
Because we don't, we just don't know them basically. So there's no point in speculating too much. But it's rumoured that Fujifilm are going to come out with a half-frame digital camera. Now, this is clearly off the back of the success of the Pentax 17, which we featured when my daughter took it to New York by mistake and ended up there. So with a film camera where you've got a limited number of exposures, let's just say 36, there's a purpose or an advantage to having a half-frame camera because it gives you double the amount of shots before you reach the end of the film. But if you're shooting digitally, what would be the advantage of having a half-frame sensor? It just means
I just noticed it was digital. I didn't realise that. That's the point of that.
Well, exactly. So basically all it is it's a camera, a digital camera, but the sensor is 90 degrees round the other way to what it normally is. So when you hold the camera in the normal orientation, as you would to take, otherwise a landscape shot, you end up with a portrait shot. So it's basically, just sort of hanging on to the coattails of the current trend of TikTokers and Instagrammers and what have you, who would like to take upright photos. And it prevents you from having to do that. I'm moving my arms, by the way, moving your arms a little bit to put a camera sideways. Other than that...
But I've got a Fuji analog camera, Marcus, and it's medium format, and it's exactly the same. It's portrait when you hold it kind of normal ways.
Yes.
Turn it the other way around. So maybe it's not a coattails trend, maybe it's a Fuji thing.
Because that's a film camera and you're working with a physical medium which comes off of a roll, there's a reason to do it. But with digital, there's no reason whatsoever. All it is basically a camera with the screen and the sensor rotated 90 degrees so that it takes upright photos as standard. And if you wanted to shoot landscape, you have to then turn the camera through its side. And I just don't see what the point is, other than it's going to appeal to the Instagrammers and the TikTokers who like to take upright photos and can't be bothered to extend their arms or rotate their arms.
Well, I mean, who's to say that they're not worth appealing to? I was, like I said, I was doing a trip a couple of weeks ago, and just at the very end, there was something that was worth videoing, and I started videoing in portrait mode, and within 5 seconds I thought, oh, maybe I should turn it, but then I thought, you know what, nearly everyone that is going to be sent to is going to be watching it upright, so why not just go with it and do the whole thing that way? So we dismissed them, but there is a whole bunch of people out there who do watch things and consume content in that way, so I guess Fuji are just...
Absolutely, but my point is, Ruth, is that all the existing cameras that are digital already do what this camera does. All you'd have to do is you turn them through 90 degrees. That's all this camera does. So it's just a bit bizarre. But I bet you that not a lot of people will realise that. And if they do come out of it, it will be unique to the market. And so people will go, oh, look, this camera takes upright photos. I'll buy that one.
Until you come along and kind of turn yours 90 degrees. Adam, what do you reckon to it? Have you had a wee look at it?
I have not looked at this one. But it's not massively surprising to me, given the way that photography and video has kind of moved alongside social media in lots of ways. Even the kind of ratio that you would crop images to, there's certain ratios like 9:16 and stuff that work better on a lot of these social media platforms. So I suppose it's not a massive surprise that they're bringing out a product that's geared pretty much straight for that.
So what do you reckon? Does the world need it, Marcus? You reckon not?
I don't know. They're definitely not. But I also think that it will probably be quite a success. Okay,
Adam, does the world need it?
No, but I agree. I think it will probably get lots of people interested in it.
Okay, next gear item, Adam, what have we got?
So we have the Canon EOS R50V. New camera aimed at videography and content creators. So it has the usual kind of stuff, 24 megapixel sensor, does 4K video, 60p, can do slow motion, 10-bit recording. It also does Canon Log 3, which I think is notable, allows for greater control in post color grading. It does not have an EVF, but it does have an LCD screen on the back that you can adjust. So when I was looking through this, I think one of the good things about this is the price point that it's been aimed at. So currently it is £729, that's pounds, from Wex Photography. So that's without a lens. With the lens, you can get it for under £1,000, which I think it's pretty good.
What size? I know you said it was a 24 megapixel sensor, but what size is the sensor? Do you know that? Is it full frame or is it like APS-C or?
Yes, APS-C.
Right. Okay. So obviously, if you wanted to shoot wide angle, then you'd have to get some seriously wide lenses, because obviously you're cropping the image there. But yeah, no, that's a good price for a camera of those specifications. But presumably, it does take still images as well.
It can do stills. But it's clearly been aimed towards vloggers, and like it's very simple looking. It's the whole packaging and everything. It looks pretty easy to use. Not too many buttons or anything going on. So just personally, when I see a camera like that and the price point, I kind of think it would be good as a second camera option. Obviously photography online, you maybe have 2 or 3 cameras running at certain points. So that sort of situation, it would be a really handy thing given the price.
Yeah.
I actually really like some of the basic things on the front. The fact that it's got a red dot on the front that shows when you're recording. So, if you're recording yourself, which we sometimes have to do, you can actually see if it's recording just by glancing at the front of it. It's got a recording button, I think, on the front as well. And just things like flipping the screen around so you can see yourself, which I know most cameras have got. But we have occasions where we can't, you can't tell unless you've got someone behind the camera, or you can't remember if you've pressed record or not. And at that kind of price point, Marcus? I know we shoot full frame generally for our video stuff, but would you have that as a backup or as a main one?
Potentially. I mean, I don't really need a backup camera because we're never doing anything live, and if the camera goes down or whatever, then there's always a way around it. I mean,
the live show, which we have to feed the coin into the meter for that sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got variations too. I mean, you can even use our phones sometimes when the worst comes to the worst. But one thing, you're not going to know the answer to this, Adam, but I'm going to explain what my biggest problem with all video cameras is, and that is the fact that you cannot zoom in to what you've recorded to check the focus. So the amount of times that I've gone out and I've had to pre-focus on where I think someone's going to be standing because they're not standing there at the moment. So you think, right, I'm going to put the focus there. And then on the back of the screen, because the screen's so small on the back of the camera, when you're recording, it looks fine. But there's no way to zoom in like you can on a still image to check the sharpness. And then when you get back and you're looking on a big computer, you can see that the focus is off. And you just think, well, there's absolutely no way that I've got any opportunity to check that in the field. And I don't understand what the technicality issue is to prevent people from zooming in. Why can you not just press play on a video that you've recorded, pause it, and then zoom in to check the focus?
Yeah, I've got a Blackmagic 4K video camera that I use for my video stuff. And it does allow you to zoom in on and magnify the live view, but the image is really poor and pixelated. So even when you do that, you can't tell that you're in a sharp focus. So you're kind of relying on a lot of the focus peaking things that you can have, settings that you can have with these things, and just hoping for the best, basically. But I've had it before, like you, where you see it on a big screen and you're like, oh, it's not tack sharp. Even though it's telling you it was. Yeah,
I mean, I've had it often where it's not even close to being sharp, but yet it looks sharp on the back of the camera because you're looking at it so small, and then you see it on the big screen and you think, I can't even use that. That's just way too far off. And it's probably the number one problem I have with video is things being out of focus.
But most of your stills aren't tack sharp either.
No. Well, the thing is, I'm just consistent. So I'm just thinking, well, my video's slightly out of focus, so I just make everything the same.
So it's not worth having a dedicated video camera, you reckon, Marcus?
No, it is worth it, but I just wish that they would enable them to be able to check the focus. Is one of the most important things, and they're all missing it, and I don't understand why.
I'm sure there's a camera out there that can do that. All right, well, final item we got, Marcus, maybe a bit more up your street. Back to simplicity. What is it?
Yeah, so this is a new camera from Polaroid called the Polaroid Flip, and it's an instant camera. Costs £200.
That's all right.
I'm not going to be particularly kind on it though, Ruth.
Oh.
It looks like a toy, okay, because it's just a lump of plastic. Although it does come in two colours. It comes in white and orange, which is the one that I'm looking at here, and it also comes in a black. But both of them look like they've just come straight off of a Toy Story set. It's got 4 lenses inside it, and basically each one of them, my understanding is that each one is pre-focused at a different distance. And then what happens is when you take a shot, it uses sonar, and we'll come back to that in a minute, to determine how far away the subject is, okay, and then it selects the right lens, which is focused closest to where that subject is. So let's just say you've got 4 lenses, one focused at 1 metre, one focused at 3 metres, 9 metres, and then infinity. If you've got a subject at 8 metres away, then it will select probably the 9 metre lens, but it's not going to be in focus then, is it? It's still going to be out of focus. But because it's instant film, it's only small and you're probably not going to realise anyway. But there's a lot of technology going on there. But sonar, okay, my understanding of sonar is that it's for underwater. It's like basically radar underwater. It's like it's sound wave.
Well, bats use it. And they're not underwater.
Good point, Ruth.
Yeah, I don't know. But if you Google sonar, I'm pretty sure it's going to lead you to underwater. But,
well, I mean, whales and stuff use it, but bats use it as well. It's just bouncing sound waves around.
Yeah, okay. So what it was saying, I mean, I don't know this because I'm just jumping to conclusions here. But let's just say you're using it in a noisy environment. Is it then going to still work? I don't know. So
it's high pitch. That's how it works. It's like ultrasonic or something, and I'm sure they know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just another instant film camera from Polaroid. But my question is that if you're going to buy an instant film camera from Polaroid, then buy an SX70, which is one of the original ones from the 1970s, which folds down beautifully, fits into a shirt pocket, And it looks like something that Steve McQueen would walk around with, holding. Whereas this thing just looks like it's something a 5-year-old would want to walk around. It almost looks like it should have a big label coming off of it saying Mattel.
It does look like something out of a Toy Story set, doesn't it? Fisher-Price, that's what I'm thinking of, actually, yeah, like the giant phone.
So I've looked online, and obviously the SX70, which is the classic, 1970s Polaroid camera, which folds out beautifully and everything, and it's like metal and leather. It just looks lovely. You can get those reconditioned by a company called Mint Cameras for $299.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we're only talking another, less than $100 on top of this, and you've got something that will increase your street cred by a factor of 10. Whereas this, you're going to be too embarrassed to get it out of the bag because you're going to think, no, I don't want anyone to see me using this.
But then you just say it's got sonar and everybody will be super impressed. Has the original one got a different lens length?
No, it has one lens. It has one lens. It's just simplicity, Ruth, and it takes fantastic photos.
Infinity?
No, you focus it. That's the whole thing.
Oh.
The SX70, you can focus it.
Right.
And you've got loads more control over it. It's just a much better camera, and it's cooler, and the output is still exactly the same. But the thing that makes me laugh about this, right, is that they're advertising an app. There's got a Polaroid app now where you can take an instant photo. The photo comes out the camera, and then you use the camera on your phone to scan it so that you can upload it to your Instagram or your TikTok or your Facebook page. What is the point? Why would you take an instant photo to then digitize it?
I'm assuming it comes up with some sort of template, like a Polaroid style frame around it, which just makes it look vintage.
Yeah, but you could just use your phone, take the photo on your phone, and then just put a border around it. It's exactly the same thing.
I know. Adam, what do you reckon to it? Would you have one before Marcus jumps too far down a hole he can't get out of?
I don't think I would have one. And it's not just based on Marcus's rant there.
But Adam, when you say you wouldn't have one, are you talking about an instant camera or this specific camera?
That specific
right,
one.
Okay. Because instant film cameras are great. You've got kids, Adam. You can take photos. You can put them on the fridge. You can stick them on the wall. You can just have them lying around the house, and it's a great way to get a kind of like a novel way of looking at your photos. But I just don't see what this brings to the market that's not already there. Polaroid should just relaunch the SX70 and just go, right, we're taking it back to the old school. And, come out and make new SX70s rather than this plastic nonsense.
All right, well, you guys can make your own decisions on that. Check out our show notes for links to everything in our gear section and, of course, our news stories as well. But we're going to move on to our final feature.
Retail regrets. It's only money.
Yes, it is. This section is dedicated to photography purchases you've made, which you've come to regret. Now, last month, we heard from George, who was lamenting prime lens purchases, which was an interesting one, for landscape photography, though. Adam, it's your first time on the show, so we wanted to ask you, do you have any regrets about any gear that you've bought or any gear that you've sold in the past?
I have a couple of regrets, but the main one at the moment is the Canon 24mm tilt shift lens, which I sold. I had, and I didn't really understand what to do with it at the time of buying it. I just heard about tilt shift and I thought, oh yeah, that sounds cool. So I got one.
You need to come on one of my workshops, Adam.
Yeah. Then I moved to Edinburgh and I'd already sold it by that point. And I realised actually that lens could have really come in handy for a lot of the architectural stuff that I would be doing around town. So that's the one that I really wish I hadn't sold, and the price of those has rocketed as well. So it's almost twice as much as what I paid for it. So I just can't justify it whatsoever.
Yeah. You said you had a couple. What's the other one?
Well, the other one, we were talking about drones earlier with the lighting rigs, but I went in big on the drone.
I remember sitting you down and saying, are you sure about this?
I know. So I got the Inspire 2 and I got all the different lenses, maxed out the kit, went and got a drone license, did the whole thing. I was ready to go. And then it kind of dawned on me that I lived in Scotland, and trying to plan anything that involves flying something like that up in the air based on a week's weather forecast was going to be a challenge. And Marcus was sort of saying, as he does, he went on a bit of a rant about how I should probably just sell it and get some nice lenses or something. So I did that, and I actually think that was the right decision. It's not like me to say that Marcus was right, but that was one.
None of us like to say it.
No, I know.
It's definitely not like you. No.
I have seen some of the footage though that you got with your drones, Adam, and it was beautiful, but maybe this is like the 2 days a year that you could actually film with it.
If you watch the Edinburgh feature, which is in the show, the current show, then there is some of Adam's drone footage that appears in that, and it is very good. But it's one of those things that drones are pretty much a novelty. I think most people who buy a drone, they use it for the first couple of weeks that they buy it, and then it gets put away, and then it's lucky if it sees daylight again.
Or it crashes into something. I passed one a couple of weeks ago sitting on a fence post, which obviously somebody had found and just decided to put up there, but I'm sure the person had long gone. Yeah, you do see a lot of them. There'll be a lot of them at the bottom of oceans, I reckon, and just in trees and things like that. But anyway, if you've got any retail regrets, do feel free to get in touch. podcast@mc2photography.com. Marcus was talking about our current photography online show. If you're listening on the first Sunday of the month, it's just come out. Our May episode, we're continuing with the Great British Icons Challenge, looking to get a countryside photograph, which doesn't sound overly challenging, but knowing the guys, I'm sure they're struggling as usual. The Edinburgh photo tour, which you mentioned, Adam featuring, of course, on that, so check that out. And then, as we mentioned in the quiz, Marcus and I just finished filming a feature all about reflectors, which you'd have thought he'd have remembered, but no. But check that out. We call it's Analog Affairs. It's in, but that's just as applicable for digital shooters. So
it's actually I think it's labelled as a special feature rather than Analog Affairs, but it's just in the slots that Analog Affairs would normally appear. So
okay, it is an interesting one. If you're out there, reflectors not expensive, and you can have a lot of fun with them. So that's all coming up in our next episode of Photography Online. Do check that out, our current one, I should say. Anyway, time for us to wrap up here, I think. Adam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For joining us for the podcast. Congratulations on your first pop quiz win, and hopefully have you back at some point before the end of the year. Marcus, I mean, what do you even say? It's been...
I think congratulations on your second place and your consistent performance across the year so far.
That's true. Hope you're enjoying all your silverware. Anyway, until next time, take good care, but most of all, take good photos.
You've been listening to the Photography Online podcast in partnership with KingJoy Tripods.